and we can seamlessly move into our next important session. I would like to open the floor by greeting everyone, our five panel speakers who have accepted this little request from us to be there with us today. And they are Naosherwan Irwin Luck, Peter Nordeen, Cyrus Khambata, and Jimmy Khan. And since we are at the sleepy hours in Indian stretchable time, we are going to begin with our Indian speakers today. But before that, little 10-minute video on Baba's last journey I would like to share before the speakers begin to set the tone for this special day of 7th February, where Baba's body was interred into the crypt in the Samadhi, the tomb where we put our heads when we go to Mehrabad. So, in Baba's love, Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
On that early Saturday morning at the end of January, the heavens caved in. Telephone calls awakened us early in the morning. The beloved had slipped away from his body. Incredulous, wrung dry with grief, we slowly arrive from the four corners to gaze once again upon the beloved face.
Baba's tomb, it is just like a flame, divine flame. And when the flame is there, moths are attracted towards the flame and moths run after the flame. In 1927, Baba asked the Murli members to keep pit there, and he was in seclusion there in that pit for 5.5 months. He was also observing fast. He was doing the work for the world. Then in 1938, he got his tomb constructed when he was physically present. It never happened before. It happened during this age when Baba got his tomb constructed when he was physically present in 1938. But one day the whole world will come there, and that is that oneness of religion. The religion, all the religions will come together, and just like beads in one necklace, and there will be awareness of God. Awareness of God.
But in his own way, he withdrew his presence from the ever-familiar form.
Oh yes, let them begin, make them play, till the stars that I loved you, and we suddenly knew what heaven we're in when they begin the beginning. When they begin the beginning.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. We would like to begin with our first speaker for today evening, Cyrus Khambata. Thank you, Cyrus, for being there. Cyrus's mother-in-law, Soumya's mother, just had a fall and has been hospitalized. And yet, thank you, Cyrus, for staying up with your love and commitment to be there with us. Cyrus, can you unmute?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing is real but God. Nothing matters but love for God. God is the only reality. All else that seems real is illusory. God and I are one. Meher Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Thanks to beloved Baba, and thanks to the constant companion family and circle of friends, and more particularly Roshani, for inviting me to speak on this most momentous day in the life of the avatar and also in the life of all of us. The most momentous day of the century. When Roshni asked me to speak, I said, I really don't have any recollection of what happened in those 4 days, but still she goaded me and said, say something, how you went, what happened. So that's what I'm going to do. As a little background, I got to know of Meher Baba just a few months before he dropped his body. That was in October of 1968 through a family friend by the name of Hoshang Patel and his son Jimmy Patel. And the moment I got to know about Meher Baba, I wanted to know more about him. And as I wanted to know more about him, the Patel family was absolutely an outcast so far as my family was concerned, because they felt that they are trying to lead me astray. All the same, I'm not going to not going to into that aspect of it. I started going to the center regularly, the Avatar Meher Baba Bombay Center. Why I say that is because on the day when Baba dropped his body, I was there in the center in the evening. Had I not been there, I am sure nobody would have informed me, and I would have missed this golden opportunity, this most important event in my life. So I was there sitting. There were quite a few people. One of them was Zalbai Govewala. He was our honorary treasurer. And as we were talking about Baba, someone comes at the door and says, Zalbai, there's a call for you. So he goes there. We don't have a phone at the center. And when he comes back, he's all shaken up. He's crying, Baba, Baba, Baba. I said, what happened, Jalbai? And he said, Baba is no more. And I said, how can that be? And then, of course, frantic phone calls here, there, everywhere. Finally, it was established that a small group of people, small would mean 30, 35, 40. I have no remembrance of that. We all of a sudden decided that we should rush to Mehrabad on that night. That means the 31st January night. If I'm not mistaken, the train was one down Calcutta Mail, which goes from VT, from Bombay, and reaches Mehrabad at around, say, 8:39 in the morning. It's perpetually late. So a couple of us got in the train. I don't have a recollection how did I get in, did I pay for the tickets, but I do remember Jal, Dolly, and a whole group of people, of course, Jimmy Khan, Khorshid Khan, and a couple of people. We all went in the train, and all the time we were chatting about Baba and Baba's silence and all that. And I remember as we were nearing dawn, not dawn in the sense morning, we got the information in the newspaper that Baba's body would be interred that morning at around 7 or 8 or whatever. So we were all very disappointed that we won't be able to have Baba's darshan, especially the first timers. Because I just got to know of Meher Baba a couple of months before. And I also remember having written to Baba, and in that letter, a whole lot of things I wrote. But one sentence I distinctly remember, I telling him that I am aware that you are going to give your darshan in the month of April, because I was aware, but I know that we are going to meet before that. Something like, well, I don't know what made me write that, but exactly that's what happened. So we had the aarti in the morning at the time when he was supposed to be interred. And then as we reached Ahmednagar station, Jal approached the motorman and requested that the train be stopped at Mehrabad, lower Mehrabad, just for a few minutes so that we can just hop out. I have a very strong visual of so many of us who were very old, who were quite plump, and with great difficulty, and the luggage was there, all of them got down. Now, this is very clear in my mind that the first thing we wanted to do was run up to the hill and take Baba's darshan if the body was still open. And as we were going up, I remember Ali Kaka walking down, and he told some of the stalwarts, I'm sure it may be Jal or Dolly, whosoever, that go fast, have Baba's darshan. It is still open for darshan. So we all go up and have darshan. Obviously, for many of us, it was the first time that they were in Mehrabad, and obviously for me as well. We all stood in the queue, and everybody took Baba's darshan. Now, everyone has different experiences of what it felt like. For me, it was like, here is a person who has borne untold suffering on our behalf. That was the impression that I got. The the expression on his face, the clenching of the teeth, it made me feel that here is one person who has really suffered a lot because of us. That was the only impression I got. The only regret, if at all I may say regret, I shouldn't be saying this, but I still sometimes it just erupts and I feel, oh my God, I lost the opportunity. Is that some of the people who were known people were allowed to go down the steps and touch Baba's lotus feet. I wasn't that fortunate. And that still lingers in my mind. Had I been a little bold, had I been a less shy and told somebody, requested somebody, can I go down and touch his feet? Perhaps I would have got that opportunity, but I did not. So it keeps coming once in a way, that, oh, I lost this opportunity forever and ever. Now, as I said, when I came with the group, it was the Patel family, the Hosheng and Jimmy Patel's family, who had taken the onus of mine, because my family was absolutely against my going to Baba or believing in Baba and all that. So they were the ones who took on this onus that don't worry, we'll bring him back safely. Now we have this darshan, and I also remember Hoshang Patel asking Erach, in Zoroastrian community, when a person dies, he's given a bath, the body is given a bath, and then done with whatever it is. So Hoshang asks Erach that, did you give bath to Baba? And Erach, in his peculiar smile, he says, I don't recollect when Baba had his last bath. So, and at some place he also said that for the last 3 years he have never had his bath. So that is what I remember Erach saying that. I also remember small groups of people gathering and doing bhajan, kirtan, somebody talking. I also remember Dr. C.D. Deshmukh. Of course, after that, I knew that he was C.D. Deshmukh. At that time, it was just somebody close to Baba giving a little talk on Baba and his silence and breaking of his silence and all that. And all that was happening. So we were there for a while. And then the Patel family says, Chalo, we had the darshan, let's go back. So obviously, I was at their mercy, so to speak. So I accompanied them and we went to Ahmednagar, Ahmednagar proper, the town. And we had some lunch, a quick lunch. And then they had ordered for a taxi to go back to Pune and then from Pune take a train. This was an unmistakable voice from within telling me, you will not go. I don't know what happened, how I how I became so firm, so emboldened, and I just banged the door of the taxi and told, Osha uncle, I'm not coming. He said, what are you doing? Are you gone mad or what? How will I answer? What will I answer your mommy? I said, please, I will take care of everything. Don't worry about me. I will come after a few days. And as the taxi went by, I heaved a sigh of relief as if, now I am all by myself. But all by myself would mean that I don't know anybody. I don't know the locality. I don't know how I'm going to go back to Mehrabad. And I was just talking to Baba within myself. And all of a sudden, I heard claps like that. And there was a lady. I still have her face in my mind, but I haven't met her later on. So she does like this, come. So I go, and then she asked me, you want to go to Mehrabad? I said, yes, yes, yes. So she said, hop into that bus and it will take you to Mehrabad. The most important thing is I had come unprepared. I had very little money, as good as no money. I had very little clothes. If I remember well, I had taken one jola, kind of a school bag, and one shirt, and it was biting cold in those days at Mehrabad. So I go back to Mehrabad and I am so happy to be in that locality. Now, if you ask me, what did you do? Because I was there for 4 days, I would say I am really totally blank about it. All I remembered was that every day in the morning we would walk up the Samadhi and I would, in a sense, soak myself in that environment, that purity, that spirituality. And wherever there's a group of people talking something about Baba, I would just go in and listen to that and then run to another group and thereby, try to take in a lot of stories, a lot of episodes about Meher Baba in those 4 days. And when I would come back in the night to where we were supposed to be staying at the lower Mehrabad Mandli Hall, the baggage, the luggage, whatever, the little bag would be tossed here, there, everywhere. In other words, there was an influx of people, and wherever you put your bag or your whatever, there was no mattress or something. They had provided something that I'm not very sure, but it was to be so we have to hunt around and find the bag, place somewhere, is gone somewhere. So this happened. I have absolutely no. It was a blank thing. Then I remember on the fourth day, Saroshirani. Obviously, I got to know his name much later. One gentleman, a huge towering figure, exuding a lot of confidence and a lot of authority, announcing in the public address system, pleading, saying, requesting that it is very difficult for us to manage because no amenities are available. We would request those who have had their darshan to please go back to their own place of home, a home. So that was the time again a voice came up to me and said, okay, it's time for you to go home. But now the question is, how do I go home? I mean, I don't have the money. I don't have the wherewithal. I honestly, I am quite dumb in a sense. What would I do? I mean, how would I go? How do I go? And all of a sudden, as I'm talking to myself and Baba within me, I see a very old school friend. His name is Aspi Asundaria. So he comes up and I say, Aspi, how come you are here? Then he says, don't you remember? I was always a follower of Meher Baba. And then it dawned on me that right from the school days, everything would be Baba, Baba, Baba. And I would really be ridiculing him, what Baba, Baba you're doing? You are a Zoroastrian. You should follow Zoroaster. What are you talking, Baba, Baba? And then I said, Aspi, how are you going back to Bombay? So he said, I have come with my mama. His name was Hoshang Daruwala. We used to call him. So I said, would you please request your mama to take me along with you all? And whatever is the expense, I will pay after reaching home. So he asked the mama, and mama said, of course, sure enough. Why not? So we all went back home, courtesy the mama. And afterwards, of course, I took a little, I borrowed money from my sister, elder sister, and I went to pay him that this is your money. He said, no, no, nothing doing. You are like my son. So don't worry about it. So that was the first visit to Meher Baba. And that is all that I remember. Now, the important thing is that I got to know in those, wherever I used to go, that sometime before, quite some time before, Baba was asked by the Mandli that Baba, you have been suffering. You have been undergoing untold suffering. How long are you going to suffer? And at that time, Baba said, only up to my birthday, till my birthday. So the assumption was 25th of February, right? So, okay, fine. Then on the 31st of January, this is all the short talk that I heard at that time. On the 31st of January morning, again, the Mandli pleaded because he used to get very, very terrible spasms. So Mandli said, that abhi had ho gayi. Yeah, it's enough is enough. It's time for you now, that you've been suffering too much. Please, like unload your words to the effect. And then again they asked Baba, how much you are suffering? How long will you suffer? At that time, he again said, 7 more days. So now at that time, it never occurred to anybody. But that 7 more days, that is the 7th of February, happens to be Baba's birthday according to the Zoroastrian calendar. So both the things which Baba said, till my next birthday, that fell true. So now what is the importance of this day? Every time the avatar comes, he comes with an agenda and his work, let's put it that way. And Baba had declared, that his exclusion work was completed 100% to his satisfaction, and that declaration was made on the 30th of July 1968. So he has accomplished what he had come for, and then there's no need for him to keep the body. And the most important thing is that after dropping of the body, he has not to suffer. Perhaps that is the reason why we say celebrating Baba's Amar Tithi, or why we say happy Amar Tithi. This is just my guesswork. That happy in the sense we are happy in Baba's happiness of him being relieved of his suffering. So perhaps that's all I can say. And the importance to me of that particular day is that was the day I was one of the witnesses to the physical form of the Lord himself, which is a very, 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 very rare opportunity. And I am indebted to Baba. I am so thankful to Baba that I was there on that particular day at the center. Had I not been there, I would have missed that opportunity. So thank you, beloved Baba. And thanks to all of you once again for giving me this opportunity to express my impressions of that most wonderful day. Avatar Meher
मेहर
Baba
बाबा
ki
की
jai.
जय बाबा
Jai Baba. Thank you, Baba.
जय बाबा
Thank you, Baba.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being there. And now we have our second speaker for this sacred evening, our dear Jimmy uncle, Jimmy Khan, who always has wonderful stories to share with all of us about Baba and his younger days to right till the end. So we invite Jimmy Uncle to share about the interment day and those 8 precious sacred days up on the hill. Jimmy Uncle, please unmute Jimmy Uncle.
Jai Baba. Uh, Thank you, Roshni, for the invite. Thank you for the circle group for the invite. The time is very short. I thought Roshni will give me 40 minutes. She has given me only 14 minutes. So I better be brief and start. Cyrus has already touched upon the 31st evening. So I will not talk about the 31st evening, 31st night, because we were on the same train. So I'll skip that part. I will come straight to the hill. Today, 1st of February, for the first time in my life, I'm seeing Lower Mehrabad. For the first time in my life, I'm seeing the monthly hall at Lower Mehrabad. Going up the hill, Mehrabad is new to me, and finally the hill. We all possibly thought that Baba's body was already covered by now, but my version is slightly different from Cyrus's. Today, where there is Sabha Mandap, Era Jasawala was standing there, and everyone wanted to meet him. By everyone, I mean the group, 30 of us roughly. And immediately Era Jagal said, don't meet anyone from the Mandli. Please go inside and please pay your respects to Baba. That is when we realized that Baba's body is not closed. We were informed that Baba's body would be closed at 10 in the morning. But fortunately for us, that gave us a hint that Baba's body is still not interred. So the seniors from our group, naturally, the seniors go inside. Now here also I'm at tangent to Cyrus in the sense that first the seniors went inside and they bowed to Baba. Then the other youngsters went inside, and then I went inside. I was in my early 20s, and for the first time in my life, I'm entering Samadhi. In Samadhi, there are 4 heavy stone steps going down. You've seen it n number of times in the film. You saw it today as well. There are 4 steps going down. So I go and stand on the 4th step, the lowest step, and here I see Baba with his eyes shut. He's covered in chadar, etc. The scarf around his face, and Baba is lifeless. It almost choked my throat when I saw Baba like this, because from 1960 onwards, the n number of times that I met Meher Baba, and this very visually very difficult to absorb and to accept both. It was very difficult. It was very difficult. And like everyone else, I was also emotional. I bent down, touched Baba's feet. We could touch Baba's feet. So touched Baba's feet and we came out. So this is the very first impression of going into Samadhi for the very first time in my life. Then the women Manli stayed in the east room and the west room. The west room is where today the museum is. That is called, that was and is called the west room. So the women Mandli stayed there. My mother and the other women who came from Bombay, they stayed on the higher level. In India, we call it the first floor. In the West, you call it the second level, whatever. So the Parsi ladies stayed there. I, for myself, I went down and I stayed in the Mandli hall. We were told that we are going for one night. Baba was to be interred in the morning, and maybe after one night we would return. So we all had packed only one change of shirt, as Cyrus said, one change of clothes, maximum 2 change of clothes, and had taken beddings, bedrolls. So here I am in the Mandli hall putting my small bag and my bedding. And every time I came down, Cyrus already talked about it. Every time we came down, more and more people came in, and your bedroll and your bag is tossed somewhere, and you got to hunt for it. You have to go in the whole of the monthly hall to search for your bag and your bedding. Now, in the morning, it was Padri Kaka who gave us a cup of tea. Because in those days, we are talking about 1969. In those days, there was no place where we could have even a cup of tea. But I understand that later on, a shack came up, a chai wala came up. Besides, there's nothing. And no breakfast, absolutely no breakfast, no afternoon tea, no after evening snacks, nothing. As for the food, we were given food by the trust in the afternoon and at night or in the evening up the hill at Upper Merabat. It was trust to fed us the food. This is because if you ever wanted food, anything to eat, besides tea, if you wanted anything to eat, the closest and the nearest place you could go to have your meal would be straight in the city, straight in the town. In those days, it was a town. Straight in between also, there was not even a shack or a dhaba where you could have even a snack. So therefore, it became kind of onerous for the trust to feed us. So I had my mom, and everyone around there. We had no option but to be at the mercy of the trust and have our lunch and dinner as given by the trust. On the fourth day or the fifth day, Cyrus made a mention of that. Sarosh Irani announced from the mic, please, those who have had darshan, we request you to please go back. Please go to wherever you come from. Please have your darshan and go. We have no money to feed you. These are Sarosh Irani's words that rings me after 52 years. He said, please, we beg of you to go back. We have no money now to feed you. This is a time when the Parsi group got together, whatever money they had, they pulled together and they made a purse and they gave it to the trustees and said, this is a small donation from us. Please feed the people. We'll be very happy if you will please accept it and feed the people. This is how the trust fed the people for 7 days, those who came there. People came and people went. If you ask me, Jimmy, did you see thousands over there? My answer is no. There were not thousands. There were no thousands there. You know what we call in English floating population. By floating population, people come and go, like the tourists as they do. So people came and people went. They came for half day, they came for 1 day, and they went. So there was this floating population. I saw the women Mandli going twice inside the samadhi. They would come from the east room, they go inside, they would close the door, and from outside we could hear wailing and crying and wailing. And after half an hour, 45 minutes, they would open the door and they would go back to the east room. As for the doctors, there were 3 doctors, a Dr. Goher, Dr. Don, and doctor from Mumbai, neurosurgeon. So he was there. So they would close the door twice a day. They would go inside. One of them, Dr. Goel, would go down the steps. She would examine the body, and then she would close the body again, and they would come out and tell the mandli that the body is holding good, the body is good, we can still go on for more time. So that is how every day, twice a day, they went down, examined the body, and Dr. Ginde. And that's how Baba's body went on, open for 7 days. Now, as you saw in the film, Baba's body was in the crypt in the center, and surrounding were blocks of ice, all through for all 7 days. I will not go into the history of how the ice was obtained. That's a different story by itself. So now you got to keep this ice going, these chunks of ice, these blocks of ice. you have to keep it going. So Jal Dastur would go down the step, and behind Jal Dastur, I am carrying a tokri full of rock salt or black salt. Tokri is something like a wicker basket. So I'm standing on the last step with a tokri full of salt, and Jal takes a handful from the tokri. He spreads it on the ice, takes another handful, spreads on the ice. Jal was walking on ice, balancing himself on ice blocks for maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You got to imagine walking on ice slabs for roughly 2 to 3 minutes. And I'm holding the basket, and this is what he did. Now, what else we did was, in Samadhi, on either side, or on the ledge, or on the either side. In those days, we could sit on the ledge. So three of us could sit on either side, three on this side, three on this side, and we would fan Baba's body because there were flies around. So we would fan Baba's body. And I was one of those who did this. My sister Bepsi also did this. So I saw, when I fanned Baba's body, I saw Baba's eye flickering. To this day, I remember I saw Baba's eye flickering. I did see that. So this is what I did. And now, since time is short, let me come straight to the 7th of February, 52 years this day. It was already announced on the earlier day, on the 6th, that tomorrow morning Baba's body would be closed. Everybody knows that. So I had gone, I had gone up the hill. I'm almost sure that I must have gone down and bowed myself for the last time. At around noon, there is an announcement that now Baba's body is to be closed. Please stay back. Please stay back. We are now closing Baba's body. Now, human psychology works in reverse gear. The moment you announce that please stay back, people were flocking more and more towards Samadhi, and it became a little chaotic. It became a little kind of out of control. The crowd went out of control. And I remember there were 3 policemen, there were 3 cops, and with that bit and with their lathis, they were pushing people. They were pushing, piche jao, piche jao, piche jao. Means move back, move back, move back. Now this became a little too much for me. I had been on the hill for 7 days. I must have gone inside Samadhi maybe 14 times. So I said, this is it. My time is over. This is it. So I backtrack kind of, and I go to where today there is this museum, the West Room. And you know, the museum has a small door, the green door, and there's a niche. So I thought the best thing is to sit here, shut my eyes, and meditate and be far from this maddening crowd. So here I am, I've shut my eyes, I'm in that niche. I'm not sure how long I sat in that niche. And suddenly there's a voice. It was Meru of the Mandli. Meru said, she saw me over there. She said, Jimmy, get up, Jimmy, get up. And in Meru's hand, there was a large basket of roses, red roses, right up to the brim. And Meru says, Jimmy, take it, give it to Jal, tell Jal that put it on Baba before Baba's body is shut. So here I am laden with a huge basket of red roses. And as I come out from that green gate, now what I did is I went from behind Baba's cabin. I didn't want to go from the front. So I go from behind Baba's cabin and saying, there's quite a crowd there. So I'm saying, please side, baju auto, please make way. Meras, flowers for Baba, please make way. So everyone looked this way, and they made way for me So from behind Baba's cabin, I go behind the Samadhi, and from behind the Samadhi, I come in front. And sure enough, Jal is at the door. Jal is at Samadhi door. Fortunately, not one rose fell. Not one rose fell, though it was right up to the brim. And I'm handing over the basket to Jal, saying, Jal, this is from the Mandli. Please, hope you have not covered Baba's body. Now, in retrospect, I think that by that time, Baba's body was already covered with a wooden box. I presume so. Nevertheless, so I'm giving it to Jal. And the moment I give it to Jal, Jal says, get the earth, get the earth. Now, I drew a blank. Jal is saying, get the earth, get the earth. I drew a blank. Jal realized that this Lafa hasn't got it. So he said, he was also emotional. So he kind of said, can't you see the earth? Can't you see the earth here? Now, Jal is facing outside the Samadhi. And where today is Meramai's tomb, that is where a mound of earth was brought and kept. I had not seen it. I had not seen it. But then when he shouted at me, I saw it. So over there was a gamela and there was a spade. So I pick up the gamela and I fill the gamela with the earth and I lift the gamela and I send in the first earth, the last flowers and the first earth. They go in. So Jal says, get the other one, get the other one. Before I could react and try and pick up the gamela, people all around, they pounced on me. You can say they snatched the gamela from my hand and they filled the gamela. This is when I realized that my job is done. So I go back to where I belong and I sat there in silence. I don't know how long I sat there. So this was my last day. This was my contribution to Baba, the flowers and the earth. So this is it. And after Baba's body was covered and closed, I'm sure people went in and they had their one more darshan, the last darshan, before they went back, Mumbai, Pune, wherever they came from across. So effectively, everybody went. The next day on the 8th morning, we go up the hill and Iraj is there and everybody, the group meets Iraj. They meet the Mandli and says, we are now leaving. So Iraj's words, they ring in my ear. Iraj says, you all are also going. Everybody is gone. You are also leaving us. So the people said that Iraj, we came for one night. We stayed for 7 nights. You're also going now. So we have to go, Iraj. We have to go because you will also go. So this is how we bid goodbye to the Mandli, goodbye to Baba. And this is it. Talking about what is the significance of today. Today is the 7th Feb. So what is the significance of today? I look at it this way, that one is what Baba told Padri. Baba told Padri, what are you talking? The shop will open now. So today, effective first, but from that day onwards, from the 8th of 1970 onwards, the Samadhi has never remained closed. Dukan really opened. The shop did open. So this is the significance of today, that from today onwards, anybody can just walk in and have Baba's darshan. Baba did say that now onwards, when Baba was asked, he said, now onwards I will give my darshan 365 days of the year. And the Mandli couldn't fathom how Baba is not able to give darshan 3 days. Baba said, I will sleep and give darshan. How can he give darshan 365 days of the year? What's Baba talking? Well, he alone understands because he alone exists. So he knew what he was talking about. The n number of hints that Baba gave. Yes, nothing. Sorry, my mom on the hill. My mom told me that Jimmy, Baba is in coma. Don't worry, Baba will rise again. I repeat, my mom's words. Jimmy, Baba is in coma. He'll rise again. I knew for sure that Baba is no more. I knew for sure Baba is gone. But this is what my mom said. This is because Baba had told Mandli that I'll be in coma. Don't worry, I'll be in coma. So the Mandli thought Baba was in coma. My mother thought Baba was in coma. But I was resigned to the fact that Baba is no more. And lastly, all the lovers thought that the Mandli does not want to share beloved Baba with us. The Mandli wants to keep Baba to himself at Merazad. From this day, from 7th of February, the Mandli had no hold over Baba. Mandli never had hold over Baba, but he became universal. He became open to everybody's darshan. So this is my last thought, that this is how Baba became everybody's Meher Baba. The darshan was open to everyone. You can have your fill, go inside Samadhi, sit the whole day. And well, these days we don't. But anyway, that's it. The days will also pass. Okay, Roshni, Jai Baba. I thought I finished.
Jai, Jai Baba. Thank you so much, Jimmy Uncle. Thank you so much. And how fortunate and blessed that you could put that last earth and those flowers onto Baba. Jai Meher Baba. Thank you so much for sharing your intimate moments with Baba's last days. And we now invite our dear Naosherwan Anzar from US, the founder of Beloved Archives, and we all know him. And for those who don't know him, will know him today. So, without any more ado, I will ask Naosherwan to begin his share on the significance of 7th of February, though he himself has, like Cyrus, not been there on 7th, but yet we thought that the significance of this day, the sacredness of this day, Naosherwan could throw some light and insights from his end for all of us. Thanks, Naosherwan, for being there. Please unmute, Naosherwan. I've sent the request here.
Jai Meher Baba. Roshni, thank you so much. Angela, the Circle of Friends, thank you so much for inviting me to share what we at that time used to call the great event. Everybody in the Mandali termed it as the great event. So I'd like to go back 40 days before Baba dropped his body. I won't go into the details of that meeting, but the significance of that meeting was, it was the day Dara and Amrit got married at Mirazad. It was my first trip to Mirazad, and beloved Baba had invited me to discuss my future, what job I should take and so forth. And more importantly, the future of Glow International that had been in existence for about 3 years. And Baba used to call it his infant and had asked me to nurture his infant. So I was there in Mirazad at around 3 in the afternoon. And I enter the bedroom that you've seen, the side entrance to Baba's, to the bungalow where Baba's bed is. And there were 4 or 5 other Mandali members who also came in with their stools. There was no place for me to sit, so I sat at the edge of Baba's bed. And Baba then told Irach to tell me what he had been doing in seclusion. And Irach then narrated to me in detail that Baba was pounding his right hand on his right knee. And at that moment, Irach asked me, would you like to massage Baba's thigh and leg? And I was still sitting on the bed, and as I touched his thigh, I felt as if I was touching a wall. It was solid as a rock. And I had exchanged letters with Baba earlier about the suffering and so forth. And Baba had emphasized that it was that the avatar had to suffer and that he was going through this suffering for the sake of humanity. And it was in the later years that I heard, after Baba had dropped his body, where Mera had said, she encapsulated Baba's dropping his body. And I don't know whether you've heard this before, but I'll say it in Gujarati and then translate it in English. Mera said, Baba e ai papi dunya ne vare potanu jism havan kidun. Baba has destroyed his body for the sake of this sinful world. And she repeated that over and over again when she was at the tomb after Baba had dropped his body on the 31st. So going back to my last meeting with Baba, then after the deliberations were over, the discussions were over, and Baba told me what to do with my life and about the glow and so forth. Iris said that Baba has not permitted anyone to embrace him, but you can embrace him and kiss him on the cheeks. And I did that. And then Baba turns to me and says, my time has come. And at that moment, I was blank. I didn't know what he meant. I stepped out of the room, and there was a very gentle clap, and I came back into the room, and Baba said, my time has come. And again, there was a clap, and then I went out of the room. Again, there was a clap. I came back, and again, Baba said, my time has come. And he had said this to a number of people, but those words never had the kind of impact, not on me, nor on anybody else. He had even mentioned it to Arnabaz several times. But that did not hit the mark that his time had come. Now we go back to the day Baba dropped his body. So the day I had his last darshan was my last interview with the Times of India, for which I had applied for a job, and I was selected for that job. On the day Baba dropped his body was the first day of my first job at Times of India. So I'm getting dressed up in the morning. I'm wearing a thin, light suit, and the phone rings. And a friend calls me up and says, have you seen this morning's Times of India? And I said, no. She said, go right now and check the Times of India. I pulled it from under the door, and I opened the front page, and on the right-hand column, there was a picture of Baba in the crypt, and the headline said, Meher Baba found dead in a cave, was the title. And then there was a description. Now, at that moment, to say that I was stunned would be an understatement. All my life growing up with Meher Baba, since I was a child, we were dependent on Meher Baba for every single decision of our lives. My mother, my father, my sister, myself, we were all dependent on Meher Baba. Anything that happened, we would write to him and get an answer. Suddenly, here I was, not knowing what I should do. And this thought came to my mind, what will I do without him? It may have been an extremely selfish thought, but this was the thought that came to me. What will I do without him? What will I do without him? And for a few minutes, I was stunned. I put the phone down. I told you that I had worn a thin suit and I headed for the Times of India. It was my first day of my first job. I walk into my boss's office and I say, "Sir, I need leave." I could see the shock on my boss's face. He says, "What? Today is the first day of your first job and you want leave?" Fortunately, the Times of India was on his table. I said, "Sir, that picture that you see is the picture of my master, and he has passed away, and I need to be with him." And in India, they understand what it is when your master passes away. You need to be with him. He says, but we were going to start our session today. And then how soon can you come back? I said, "Sir, I really don't know, but it should be a day or two." I had no information about interment or when Baba's body would be covered, or I had no information at all except for what I had read in the newspaper. So I had some money in my pocket. I didn't have any extra spare of clothes or anything. The train station was across from the Times of India building. I walked over to the train station, found out the train, got onto the train, and took the train to Mehrabad, to Ahmednagar. Now, I had never been to Mehrabad before. And I landed the train station. It was totally deserted. It was around 11:30 at night. Totally deserted, except for one horse carriage, one tonga standing there. I go to him and I say, "Do you know Meher Baba's place?" I asked him in Hindi. He said, "Yes, sir. Come, I'll take you there." Now, in those days, the Dhond Manmad road that you see today, packed with cars and trucks and people, was absolutely deserted. There were no lights on the street. There were no street lights. An occasional truck went past. There was nothing there, nobody there. Suddenly, in pitch darkness, this Tonga driver stops and he says, "Sahab, this is Meher Baba's place." There were no people there. There was no one there. I look up the hill, I look up a steep hill, and there is a small little lamp burning. And I say to myself, this is a hoax. Somebody has pulled a hoax. Meher Baba has not passed away. He's alive. Otherwise, there'll be hundreds of people here. So I didn't even know how to go up. And I was, as Cyrus mentioned, it was an extremely cold night. I was freezing. And I'm walking up the steps. There was pebbles, rocks. I was falling down. I was going up. Finally, I reached the top from where I saw that light. It was a little lamp that the Zoroastrians always burnt with wicker in it. When I come to the top of the hill, I see a group of people with blankets covering their heads. They were all villagers who were sitting over there. And then one person was sitting with a quilt on his head. So I go towards that person and the quilt rises and it was Erich. And I say, "Erich uncle." And he says, "Naosherwan, you've come?" He says, go quickly, go inside the tomb and take Baba's darshan. Do you have a flashlight? I said, no. So here, take my flashlight and go in. So in those days, the tomb was not the way you see today with the awning and all that. It was just a sheer, door. So I opened the door, I go in, and I close the door behind me. Baba's body was in the crypt. And this is how the Baba's body looked, this picture that you see here. I go down the 4 steps. I hold on to Baba's feet for the longest time that I can hold on. The tomb, of course, was pitch dark. And I kept flashing, put the flashlight on Baba's face repeatedly, with this thought continually in my head, what will I do without him? What will I do without him? Then it was like a film of my earliest meeting with Baba, as I went along, my various meetings with Baba, all that he had done for me. I was expressing my gratitude. I said the Master's Prayer, the Parvadigar Prayer, sat holding his feet for the longest time. As I was sitting on the steps, putting the flashlight on his face. And then I would get very tired and I would let the flashlight kind of put on the side. Again, I would put the flashlight on Baba's face, hold on to his feet. At one point when the flashlight on Baba's face, he actually opened his eyes fully and looked at me. And I said, oh my God, am I seeing things? And I turned the flashlight away. I put the flashlight back and Baba's eyes was closed. But what happened at that moment was that the thought that what will I do without him vanished completely. That thought didn't exist anymore. And the thought that took over completely was Baba telling me, I am with you. I am with you. I am with you. And then once again, I told Baba that, Baba, I promise you today, for all that you have done for me, that I will write your biography. And it took me 2 years to write The Beloved, but eventually I fulfilled my promise to Baba that I made in his presence in the tomb. So today, this is Adi Jr. Sitting on the 3rd step of the tomb. You can see Baba's feet. Adi Jr. is Meher Baba's younger brother. And this was what it looked like. This picture that Shenazz is showing you was the picture before Baba's body was placed in the crypt. This was even before the tiles were removed. So this is a picture of that. And this is a picture of Baba's body, the tomb being covered. And I wanted to show the picture of Dr. Duncan and some of the others. So this one. Now, this is a very important picture because as we all were milling around, the 4 of them were in constant conversation. And that's Erich, Dr. Ginde, Mani, and Dr. Duncan. They were in constant conversation as to when Baba's body had to be interred. And nobody seemed to know. I could not stay on. I had to rush back to Bombay to take over to be back at my first job. And everybody was at tenterhooks. Should we stay? Should we go? Should we stay? Should we go? I sent a message to my mother in Dehradun asking her to come, and she came right away. After she came, she sent a message to my father, and he came because everybody was under the impression Adi Irani's message had gone saying that the body would be interred. And so nobody really knew. But then people started coming in droves, and so then soon after that, I went back to Bombay, and then a few weeks later, I came to Meherazad to live with the Mandli. And it was at that time that I heard all these stories from Erich. And one of the stories that he narrated to me about this great event was that a Zoroastrian high priest of Ahmednagar had visited the tomb in all his priestly robes, and he performed the most unusual act for one of the priestly class. He went down into the crypt, touched Baba's feet. Now, what had happened was that on the early morning, before Baba had dropped his body, at 4:30 in the morning, this priest got up to say his prayers. And then he said his prayers, and he went back to sleep. And what does he see? He sees Meher Baba bathed in bright halo, a light of a bright halo, riding past him on a white horse, saying he was going to his destination. He was going to his manzil. The priest jumped out of his bed and decided to make some inquiries about Baba. Mind you, he had not, despite the fact that he lived in Ahmednagar, he was not a Baba lover. He had not expressed any interest in seeing Baba, but this was the chance that Baba gave him. He made inquiries about Baba, and he learned that Baba had later on dropped that body. He rushed to the tomb to pay his respects to Meher Baba. This is how Baba, at the very last minute, responded to the feelings, just as he has been doing all along for all of us. He's been so kind, so patient, so loving, so compassionate. There's another story I'd like to narrate about this experience. Let me show you a picture of the Kaaba. Have a look at this picture of the Kaaba. This is Mecca, and it's submerged in water. So Erich tells me this story that from January 31st to February 7, 1969, the period during which Baba's body was laid out in the open crypt of the tomb, the Muslim pilgrims who visited the holy city of Mecca on their Hajj were unable to go around the Kaaba. They were unable to circumambulate the Kaaba. And the Kaaba is the black stone which supposedly was given to Abraham by the angel Gabriel, because it was submerged in 6.5 feet of water. Such a thing like this had never happened before in the last 1400 years. And at that time, Erich felt that Meher Baba in his present avtaric form was signifying to all the followers of his advent that his present tomb at Mehrabad was now the Kaaba of the present age. So some people come to know of Baba after Baba dropped his body. But he has always kept his promise that he will manifest his presence in the hearts of everyone. The avatar is infinite consciousness, and he manifests that infinite consciousness. Being infinite consciousness, he always remains and functions as infinite consciousness. Therefore, when the avatar sheds his man form, he continues to be infinitely conscious of his creation, of his creatures, and is mindful of his lovers who continue to adore him in their hearts. So when I left Mehrabad a day later, I could not stay on for the interment. His words, "I'm always with you," are the words that I can share with each one of you, that this is Meher Baba's promise to each one of you. He is always with you. He is always with you. He is always with you. And the only way you can keep his presence in your hearts is by remembering him all the time. But more importantly, also sharing his name, sharing his message with all those you meet in your lifetime. That is Meher Baba's gift to you, the gift of sharing his name. Share his name with everyone you meet, irrespective of what others feel. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Thank you so much, Naosherwan. And yes, that "I'm with you" seemed like a sign Baba was giving, and your phone berserkly went ringing when you were saying "I'm with you." And we thought he is giving that signal from up above, "I'm with you," to all of us, as you emphatically said that and reiterated that to all of us. Thank you so much, Naosherwan.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much. Before I invite our next speaker, I would like to read out this little excerpt from the book Meher Baba's Last Sahwas by Dr. Bharucha. The 8th day, Friday, 7th February, dawned. Lovers were awake from 3 in the night. This was the last day of the Sahwas, as Baba's body was to be interred at 12:15 p.m. The trustees had decided on this issue at a meeting. Coincidentally, it was Baba's birthday according to the Zoroastrian calendar. Ladies were dressed in fine clothes and seemed quite gay. By 4:30 a.m., all had collected at the tomb. Arach and a few others were busy arranging blocks of ice, changing the covers placed over Baba, and rearranging roses in the crypt. It was announced that exactly at 5 a.m., Baba's birth time, all should call Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai 3 times. Arach said that when Baba was with them physically, he always celebrated his birthday in this simple manner by asking Mandli to shout Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai at 5 a.m. Mehra, Mani and the women Mandli went inside the tomb at 4:40 a.m. All stood around the tomb singing Baba's name, Sachitanand Parmanand Meher Baba Vigyanand. At exactly 5 a.m., all joined in three loud cheers of Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Soon after the women Mandli had garlanded Baba, the doors of the tomb were opened and they left. The darshan program started. On this birthday, the last one in his physical presence, the Mandli recalled the times they used to celebrate Baba's birthday in the early years at Mehrabad. The day would start at 4:30 a.m. Baba would be clad in a new white sadra and chappals, sandals. Over the sadra, there was sure to be a new colored silk coat, such as Baba always wore. Before long, however, Baba would take off the new coat and put on his old coat, patched but comfortable coat. The gramophone would strike up one of Baba's favorite tunes or songs. Then would follow, sung by all, Happy Birthday to You, Baba standing. Mehra would place around his neck a simple garland of flowers from the garden. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. I would now like to invite our next speaker, Irwin Luck. I would read quote unquote of what Irwin had said in our earlier session at the East West Satsang when he had sent me this. I met Meher Baba when I was 23. I went to him because I wanted him to show me God. I heard that he said he was God the infinite, now in the human form at my level. So I thought I would approach him and see what he could do about what I wanted. I was tired of hearing about God, reading books and Bibles about him, hearing other people's experiences and endless stories about him, endless pilgrimages. I wanted to see this for myself, not more words and places. So I thought, no one is high enough that they could show me God. Only God could show me himself. I will see what Meher Baba will do to satisfy me. And so it happened. I journeyed halfway around the world to meet him. Little did I know I would be taken into his family. Little did I know the path he would set me on. Little did I know what he would show me to share with you all. With that, I would like Arvind to share with all of us what Baba would have liked you to share with us for this special sacred day of interment of beloved Baba's body. Thank you, Arvind, for being there with us.
I welcome everybody to hear what happened in those days and also about the internment, because I was fortunate enough to be with to be there at the time when Baba had dropped his body. When I arrived, it was the 7th day. It was February 7th. It was the day he was to be covered. And I arrived with my brother Edward. We didn't know what was going to happen, because when you read the record of what happened with Jesus and with other great advents of Avatar, you hear that they rose from the dead and they did, some amazing miraculous things. So we didn't know what to expect, just because we read some of the past things that the Avatar is reported to have done. But with Baba, it was a different story. There were certain miraculous things, one of which was just talked about by Naosherwan with the priest, the Zoroastrian priest coming. It was a very miraculous event that happened to that man. And I did speak with that priest later, and he did recite the story of how he was not at all a Baba lover. He didn't know anything about Baba. And now this extraordinary thing happened in his life, and he wanted to see who this was. So he went to where the Mehrabad was. And of course, he was there and was very curious to know all he could about Meher Baba too. So we had that long talk in which we discussed that. But now I'm telling you this, that the time of the internment, I felt was a great time of intoxication for 4 days. Wow, was that something? The intoxication of the joy and happiness that you found at this funeral was nothing like what happens at funerals. People are weeping and wailing, and there's all kinds of suffering for the loss of the loved one. But the only one that actually did suffer like that was Mehra. Boy, did she suffer. She was very distraught over the loss of his physical presence. And yet Mehra was very wise because she knew his godhood. She was with him all the time. There was no doubt. The Mandali were all very, very conscious of his divine side, although he expressed his most beautiful human side, which I was fortunate to be a part of at that time. And it wasn't just then, because I knew about Baba for 10 years from the time that I heard about him. And there was all these communications and letters and telegrams and visits. So in the beginning, I just want to make mention, I'm sort of skipping around here, but I just want to make mention that in the beginning, when I first heard about him, and I had read the book, Listen Humanity, I said, boy, I got to meet Meher Baba. This is the next step for me. I want him to show me God, just like she was saying just now. That was my intention. I was tired of hearing about God. Now I wanted to see it for myself. So I felt that Meher Baba, claiming to be the highest of the high, and with God, experiencing God continuously, he would be the right one to show me this. So I was very anxious to go and meet him. Well, it's a long story about how that came about, because it was also filled with some miraculous things that happened. But just the same, that was in those days. And then, you see, I had one thought. I want to become a part of his life. I wasn't just satisfied that I want to meet Meher Baba and whatever he does, you know, and like that. No, I wanted to be a part of his life. And as a result, for 10 years, I had this incredible communications with him. And just like Naosherwan was saying, that he guided him in every step of his life. He didn't even know what to do at the end when Baba would drop his body. But in my case, it was a different thing. I just wanted him to show me the reality, because Baba never tired of saying that he was not the body. Here, everybody is focused very much on the body at the time of the internment, because I went there also because he left his body. But that was not at all what he was communicating. A good deal of the time, he would say, don't mix me up with the body. I am not the body. Well, one would suspect that, considering he was saying that he was everywhere in everything all the time. Well, I don't experience that, being everywhere and everything. I'm happy just to experience myself in one spot, right here in this body, you see. So that's me. So anyhow, that was a different consciousness entirely. When someone asked him, Baba, is your consciousness, are you consciousness different than what we experience? And Baba answered with one word, very. That's all he needed to say. Very different. So, and what was the difference? Well, we live on a little tiny planet, which is like one little speck in the cosmos. A little tiny speck. And in that little tiny speck, we are a tiny speck on the surface of that planet, of this planet. And Baba is experiencing himself as the cosmos, as everything, and everything in it. So how is this possible? How can anyone experience themselves as everything in it? And by the way, this is what he came to reveal to us. He wasn't talking about just taking care of our little everyday difficulties, questions. That was not his mission and his purpose. He came because he wanted to show us what he experiences. He came down to our level to bring us up to his level. This is what he said. I don't know anything except what he told us, what he explained, and which I understood. So this is the difference. In this little speck of a world, we think of it as totally and absolutely important. Well, it is to us, but this is not what he experienced. He has to help everybody. And that's why he said, I am with you always. Naosherwan was pointing this out at the end of his talk. I am with you always. And how can he be with us always? Because he is the very self of each one of us. When we realize God, we realize our true self, which is what he is. There's one self, not two, not 10, not 50, not 100, one real self. And that's what we have to experience it and not just talk about it. Well, how are we going to experience it? He has to do it. How else can we get it? We can't give it to ourselves, or we would have done it. But this is what he does. And that's his mission as the avatar. And whatever it takes to remove the obstacles that prevent us from that experience of what we really are and our unlimited nature, is what he comes to remove those obstacles. And when he removes it, and you say, well, when am I going to get God realized? When he removes it, then you have it. There is no such thing as when or time. It is just when the obstacles to your experiencing it has been eliminated, then the experience is there. Well, anyhow, I was there for the internment. And I'm looking at Baba in the Samadhi, and I'm thinking to myself, this is not Baba. This is not what he really is. He never wanted me to think that's what he really is. But I'm so fortunate and so blessed that I can still be seeing his physical form, which he was manifesting through for our sake, because we can't see him as he really is. But guess what? I was there to find God. I wanted to know God. That's why I came to Baba, just like she said in the beginning. And so what was the case? What did Baba do? Did I find God? This is what he did. He told me some amazing things. And one of the things he said is that one day I would be able to see him as he really is. I was amongst a few that would have that experience of his reality. Well, that's not bad. It's pretty good to me. Here is a God-realized being telling me what he's going to do. Anyone else would say, well, I wish you the best. I wish you to get it, or whatever they want to wish better for you. No power, no authority to do anything. Just, it would be nice if this could happen to you. But now I'm hearing it from someone who can actually do it. And not just for me. He could do it for everybody. Where's the limit here? There's no limitations. God wants you to know him as he really is. As he really is. Not as he's not, because what he's not is illusion. It's all imagination. We live in the mind, which is the master creator of imagination. We follow our dreams in the mind. He wanted to wake us up from the mind, from the dreams, from the illusion. And he told that to my brother Edward. When Edward asked him that he saw Baba in his own dream, where he wanted to Baba was telling him in the dream what things that he should eat, and healthier diet. So someone wrote to Baba, did Edward really contact you in his dream? Did you really tell him this? And Baba said, I've come not to create more dreams for you, but to wake you up from all dreams. In the meantime, his disciples, particularly Erich, who served Baba so diligently and translated Baba's gestures. You know, Baba was amazing. He could communicate better with his hands than we could with our mouths. The most brilliant people that say the most brilliant things with their mouth, we couldn't even light a candle to what Baba was expressing just through his hand signs as Erich was reading his gestures. And now I want to read you something of what Erich thought about Meher Baba after he left his body, when he dropped his body. He wrote this. This is what Erich wrote. It's called Erich's Prayer. I'm going to read this. Beloved Baba, I remain beholding to you for everything that you have done for me, in spite of what I am and how I am. You have always overlooked my weaknesses and forgiven me my trespasses. You have never once chastised me. On the contrary, you have always showered your love upon me and your graces upon me. I have no words to express my gratitude, but to utter, oh Baba, oh Baba, oh Baba, I am grateful to you for everything. I remain grateful to you ever and ever. Oh Baba, I beseech you, implore you, and beg of you never, never, ever to let me down. Baba, never let me down. Never ever reject me, but accept me as I am and how I am. Oh Baba, guard me and guide me and help me. Hold my hand and lead me on till the very end. Fill me with your love from top to bottom, from side to side, inside and outside, so that your love pervades and permeates me, engulfs me, and envelopes me, and all that is your love, not I. I remain resigned to your will, and let thy will be done always. What a heart to express that in such a manner and to such a way. You know, I had the great opportunity, as you well know by now, of having met Meher Baba, and not only that, but to be there at the time of his internment. And I want to read you something from my book. It's a poem that I wrote to Baba during those days when I was communicating with him. And there were so many letters and so many telegrams and things that were said. I wrote this poem during the course of our time because it was very personal. I had a very personal relationship with Baba. It wasn't just in general, it was very personal as well. And in this letter poem that I sent to Baba was in September of 1963. I'm reading from my book. It's called Man to God. Once, I didn't know who you were. Once, I didn't know you were he. I could have cursed you, maybe spat upon you. I might have helped, burned, nailed, or even stoned you. See, I'm writing this to Baba. Baba's hearing this. Once I didn't know who you were. I thought you were just like me. And since I find it hard to bear myself, and since I find no love in myself, and since I don't care for myself, I did to you what I wouldn't do to me. Once I didn't know who you were. I didn't know your love and compassion. I thought it was a fairy tale. Only children could believe. Till I found out you are my God indeed. Once I didn't know how much you loved me. so much that you would take on a form for me to tear into and cry on, for me to exhaust myself upon. No one could do what you have done. No one could love the loveless one. That's my letter. Now, Mani writes a reply from Baba to this poem letter. She writes, Dear Irwin, the song of your heart in your letter received 2 days ago made Baba happy, as God is always hungry for love, and you are dear to him. Baba sends his love to you, yet he is with you all the time. Keep him with you always, not only in your heart, but in your remembrance. And that was Baba's beautiful reply back to me through Mani, Baba's sister Mani. So normally I would say that if anyone had any questions, they could ask, but I think, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
for this.
We still have Peter, Irwin, so we will finish with Peter and then we will open the floor for questions.
All right, that's very nice. Well, I'll just say
Thank you so much.
everybody, and thank you for listening. And hopefully there were things in here that could also touch your heart, because I feel Baba is always speaking to us. Dear Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you so much for the lovely sharing. Thank you. And now we have our last panel speaker for this sacred day, Peter Nordeen. Most know him, but for the ones who don't, Peter is a builder by vocation, but by avocation, he is a Meher Baba historian, having studied Baba's life and teachings for over 45 years. Peter was a resident of Meherabad when many of Baba's old disciples were still alive. From them, he had the opportunity to glean many stories of life with the Master. In 2003, Peter wrote and produced the biographical documentary God in Human Form, the life and work of Avatar Meher Baba. A few years later, he produced the music video You Alone Exist, for which we had a wonderful session yesterday and today. Peter has written several histories of Meherabad used for walking tours and for the Trust website. Recently, he wrote a booklet entitled The History of the Tomb Shrine of Avatar Meher Baba. Peter and wife Debbie usually spend 4 to 5 months every year at Meherabad, where he works on projects in the Avatar Meher Baba Trust archives and also at Avatar Meher Baba Trust publications, as well as helping with historical building preservation. Peter lives in Asheville, where he is a renovation supervisor for the Meher Archive Collective. Thank you, Peter, for accepting our request and coming here to share about the Interment Day, the Sacred Day of 7th February. Thank you so much for being there. Please unmute, Peter.
Okay. Yes, okay. I don't know how much time you want me to take. We've probably gone over the time allowance. So you tell me what
you can please begin. We have some extra time, though. At 12:30, after that, the questions can be taken over. Betty will be there. Angela will be there.
Yes.
So
we have time.
Yes.
Okay. I don't need to focus on the event so much, but I may refer to that.
You want me to put this on you?
No, yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that we did the booklet, the Tomb Shrine of Avatar Meher Baba. We used that name because in Baba's own time, specifically when the trust deed was chartered in 1959, he used the term Tomb Shrine. You know that place has great history from 1927. Baba fasted for 5.5 months while he stayed in seclusion. Not during that whole period was he in seclusion, but he fasted during the Meher Ashram into the Prem Ashram time and during the Sadhak Ashram time in 1927-28 for 5.5 months on the site of the crypt. Then it was crypt cabin. 1929, the crypt cabin became the crypt room. And then in 1938, it was built into what we see as Baba's tomb shrine. In the Sanskrit languages, the term samadhi is used. That term is used after the master drops his physical form and he takes samadhi into that tomb. So we call it his Baba's samadhi after he dropped his body. I want to mention a few things that haven't been mentioned in the details of when Baba dropped his body, because I happen to have given you a few photographs here. And if we go to those photographs I have given you, if we look at number 6 there, you will see that this box is being lowered over Baba's body. That is Irwin standing there behind on the right. Near Pindu is holding one of the ropes. Dr. Hoshan Barucha is next. Baba's brother Baram, Baba's brother Jal, Meherji are on the right. This coffin, box type coffin, was made mostly by, supervised by Dr. Duncan. It was made by a carpenter, and a Muslim carpenter who had a shop across from the bus station in Ahmednagar. The Mandali were very quick thinking on their feet. It comes from their training with Baba and also their nature to be that way. They weren't random people, you know. Baba's close circle people were made through ages and ages. So Chuggan and Duncan thought about this at Padri, and they devised this coffin. The way it happened is after Baba dropped his body at Marizad, his body was brought about 5 p.m. to Mehrabad, where it was placed still on that stretcher that we keep there today in Baba's cabin on the hill. The process of excavating the base deeper was going on. Padri had undertaken all that work with his crew from Arangang. They removed the tiles and excavated that earth another foot deeper. Much of that earth is part of that pile that Jimmy was talking about that was placed outside. But this was hard muram, so it took a little more effort and took some time to get that completed. When that was completed, Baba's body was brought in to the tomb shrine on that stretcher. At Marizad, they had placed Baba's body on a carpet. And from that carpet, his body could be lifted and placed upon the stretcher. So the idea was that the base of the coffin would be set on the floor, the excavated floor of the crypt. And so that people could more visibly see Baba's body, Erich put a couple of pieces of flagstone to raise his head up about that 4 inches up, so that his head was a little bit forward and his body was tilted a little bit forward. The reason I bring this up is because during the course of conversation in the days before Baba dropped his body, one of the points when Baba said, the Mandali were so concerned about his health and the upcoming great darshan in Pune in the spring, was how could he sit there when his health was so badly deteriorated. He made the comment, on January 11th. Do you think my lovers would mind if I give darshan lying down? And they all agreed. If it was a relief, no, Baba, that's fine if you want to do that. But then, of course, they always think about details. But how will your lovers see you? How will they see your face? He said, it's okay. My head can be propped up a few inches. So this happened actually, and I'm not sure that Erich was thinking about it at the time, but it was what was done. This box on top was made of the best grade teak plywood that was available there in Nugger, and it was finished with some layers of polish, sealed with a polish. They didn't have polyurethane, but they had certain types of varnishes and shellacs that they would use. And when that was completed, it was taken and kept under the tin shed there inside the Mary Retreat compound. And on this day, on the 7th, it was carried over here and gradually lowered. Baba's body was set carefully onto that wooden platform. That's where it was for those 6.5 days until the interment happened. If we go to the next photograph, number 7. Can you give me that photograph, please?
Yes, that is on screen, Peter.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
There it is. I have to get it properly. This is Padri on the left. This is a Muslim Mason from Arangan who's being directed by Padri to set this piece of flagstone at this edge of the crypt, leaving the steps exposed. So as the earth was filled around the box cover, these flagstones would be set to separate the actual crypt from the steps. Let's go to the next photograph. Now you can see the process. This is their thinking, how careful and meticulous they were. These are most likely teakwood boards or planks that were placed across laterally the box to give it additional strength. And this is where the last of the flowers were strewn before the final earth was placed upon here, as Jimmy mentioned in that process. You can see also the steps here. Now, these are the steps still there, the third, second, and first step. Next photograph, please. Now, this is how everything looked before the marble was set. Here you can see that it was just buried and left that shallow there. There was a process of some months where that earth was settling. There was another problem, and that is that whenever people came for darshan, they would take a handful of earth. Some people would take earth away. So as the months went by, they had to keep replenishing the earth in there. About 6 months after Baba dropped his body, there was a collapse. Now, Rick Chapman mentioned this in his talk last week also. This happened in August. There was a collapse of the earth here, and apparently the weight of the earth finally collapsed a portion of the box. But the interesting thing about it is that this fragrance of roses permeated, people say, not only just the tomb, it was the whole hill that this fragrance of roses permeated. There was no smell of decaying flesh or anything like that. And when we see these photographs of Baba in the tomb, one of the points to remember is that his body did not deteriorate. I remember a story. There are a few stories that we don't hear often, but I remember a story that, these doctors were always debating this. And the reason Baba's body was left open for 7 days, because there was discussion about it. Often you had the scientific people on one side, led by Dr. Ramginde and Hoshan Baruch and others, who said, scientifically speaking, we know what's going to happen. Shouldn't we be covering Baba's body? And on the other side, you had Sarosh, who said, who is that person who's going to tell me my master should not be left open? Let him come in before me and say such a thing. So everybody backed off when Sarosh shouted like that. There were others also. So the two camps were there. The story was one day, Dr. Parucha and Dr. Goher were in the tomb having a discussion about this on this point. And Goher said, so you say we should cover his body soon. So she went down in there into the side and pushed on Baba's body. Tell me, doctor, do you see any signs of decomposition? Pushing on Baba's chest. There was no sign of decomposition. And it wasn't just because the ice that was kept around Baba's body. Naosherwan, Jimmy had mentioned they saw Baba's eyes open. Jimmy didn't mention his sister was a little freaked out when that experience happened to her. I know for a fact one other person, Manakate Daru, also claimed that Baba's eyes opened. So this is not just when several people have that experience, it adds to the credibility of the possibility of it. So after that happened, the rumor went out after there was this collapse and the permeation of the fragrance of roses happened on the hill. The rumor went out that Baba left his tomb. Meher Baba has left his tomb. So naturally, again, there was a flock of thousands of people coming out of curiosity to see the tomb and have darshan there. The fragrance continued for, some people say, 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Eventually, it was because of the practical demand, certain changes were happening around Baba's Samadhi. First was in March, before the people coming for the great darshan came to Mehrabad for darshan at the Samadhi, that original little portico, that cover over the front was constructed so that people wouldn't have to stand in the sun. During that first year, those 5 meditation cells and the platform on the right-hand side were demolished. This is all in preparation for the eventual sites of the graves of the women that were the 11 women, 6 on the east and 5 on the west, that were, according to the trustee, to be ultimately their ashes or their body would be interred there. Now, what happened, just aside on this, in 1959, Padre, as one of the original trustees, being a practical person and being involved in the original excavation in 1927 of the crypt, when Baba had indicated that he wanted to have these graves of these 11 women on the sides of his tomb shrine, Padre brought up the point about the excavation for graves, what a massive job it would be to dig up the whole area. And if you really wanted it, then we should begin soon. But now the meditation cells that had been built in commemoration of the Sadhak ashram and the platform were on one side. So that is why we see Baba said simply this: at least Mara's grave must be there. And the others agreed that to give deference to Mera, they would all just have their ashes interred on the surface. There would be no excavation involved, but Mera's grave must be there. So in our time, in those early days before Mera passed away, we could see that site that Padre had already excavated. It was marked by 4 angle irons, which we could only see the very top of them, that marked the corners of the excavation for Mera's grave. And that's why we see that. So that happened.
Roshani wants to say something for a second.
Okay, Roshani, you have something to say?
Yes, I would be leaving in next 2-3 minutes. So wanted to just thank you. And thank you so much, everyone. Naosherwan, Jimmy Uncle, Cyrus, Irwin, for this beautiful, precious session. Truly enough. And I have to hop into one Lawrence workshop, which is there. Otherwise, I wouldn't go for nothing at all. So thank you so much for this. It is really precious and close to everybody's heart. Thank you, everyone, for being there. Peter, you can continue. And Betty and Angela, thank you for taking on and helping to take on the questions later. Thank you. Good night in his love and happy 7th February to all on the Eastern Coast.
Yes, indeed. We have
Jai
another
Baba.
2 hours on the Circle Zoom. So let's continue among the panel. And then if people have questions, you can digitally raise hand. Or if people on the panel would like to speak to each other, feel free.
May I continue?
Yes, Peter.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to tell you about how the marble came to be. The people have been asking about the marble cover on the tomb, the slab. So after Baba dropped his body, Rano made a trip to the West in 1970, and there had been some discussion as to how to finally cover the crypt there. So they knew they had to cover it since people continued to take the earth, especially. So the compaction was happening naturally. But by the first Amrtithi, there was a plaster, a fine cement plaster that covered the top surface. And on that cement plaster would be placed the cloth where the flowers could be and all that. And that's how it was originally until November 1971. So Rano, being the artist, the craftsperson, thought a lot about this. There were many discussions, as you can well imagine, about what they would put on the top of the crypt. Rano knew that Carrara marble from Italy was the best, and she wanted a specific marble with pink and gold veins in it. It's a very rare marble. So she had Fred and Ella Winterfeld go there to Italy to specifically pick out that piece. And they had already decided what would be engraved on their Avatar Meher Baba, Eternal Beloved. I've come not to teach, but to awaken. And so all that was done in Italy, 24 karat gold inlay in the letters, in the engraving. When it was ready, it was shipped to India. And it was received at Bindra House in Pune, where it was put in Marwan's room for a few days. And at that point, they removed a little bit of the cover of the crate so that they could inspect and see what it was at the time. And somebody said, there's a little dark vein in there. It may not be the purest marble. Should we send it back? So now somebody had to go from Marizad. It most likely was Rano to make that decision. Rano was the one who in large part funded the thing. Fred and Ella, I believe, also contributed to the cost of the whole thing. Upon inspection, it was determined that the marble was just fine. So that's exactly what we see. Now the marble was shipped to Mehrabad. Mehrabad, at Lower Mehrabad, it came off the truck, was taken by a bullock cart very slowly. It's still in the crate. Very slowly through Arangan, up the hill, very, very slowly to the top, the Sabha Mandap that building with the iron frame had been built at the time. The Sabha Mandap is built on the spot where that pandal from the interment week was built for people to have shade. So that's why we see the Sabha Mandap where it is. Padre told me another interesting thing about the Sabha Mandap. He said, finally, the trust was willing to spend money, and iron was a little cheap then. So he built these massive columns of iron, thinking that someday, when they didn't need it anymore, he was going to dismantle it and make a real workshop at Lower Mehrabad. Well, still there. Padre will be beyond God realized by the time that ever happens, I'm sure. So the marble up the hill, the date was set, November 14th, 1971. Padre sent the message out, nobody is to come and bother him while the installation of the marble happens on the hill. He's got it all arranged. He had been training a team of people from Arangan for weeks and weeks, how exactly this was going to happen. They had built a wooden track, a slide, to take the marble into the samadhi and where it would have to be turned. Because remember now, the slab is wider than the door. You couldn't just lay it down and carry it or slide it. It had to be taken in on the slide and then turned sideways and slid into place. So Padre had figured out exactly how this was going to happen. On that day, he did allow 3 people to be up there that we know of who were not involved in the lifting team. One was part of the lifting team, Don Euchre, who was thrilled. He's very happy still when he remembers that story, that he was allowed to take part in carrying the marble. The other 2 were Anne Conlon, who took a great series of photographs, and Cheryl, at the time Rosen, now Chapman, who was there in India on her first trip, who had a movie camera that her brother had given her to take film of India, her first trip. So she used it for that. Cheryl can't find the film. I have seen the photographs taken by Anne Conlon years ago, have no idea where they are now. Nobody seems to know, but they were a fine series of photographs to document that operation. So they were on the hill. So what happened is, Anne Conlon said that when it came time to put the marble into place, she was on the hill waiting, watching, and suddenly these guys from Arangan, typical, started talking amongst themselves, raising their voices and getting enthusiastic, and suddenly a number of them picked up the marble and began carrying it. So word went down to Padre, who rushed up the hill with the ghee necessary to slide and started shouting the way he would shout at these people to get them to be under control. So immediately there was a miscommunication. They didn't directly follow his instructions. Anyway, the slab was taken to near the samadhi. The raceway, the slide, was lubricated with ghee. It was slid inside. They turned it sideways. The whole area around was lubricated with ghee to set it exactly where they wanted to set it. That's how it ended up there. And there was a little grout placed there. And that's where it still sits today. And that's the story of that. Why is the samadhi important? I mean, Erich used to say, it houses the body that housed reality in the world of forms. It's so meaningful to us in that way. What to say? Baba had explained to us that whenever he, the ancient original one, who carries the eternal burden for the universe, takes birth as a man, it is to accomplish his work. His work. What is his work? His work, as Irwin said, is to give us that divine experience. He guides us on the path of self-effacement through love, so that we may be prepared for the real thing. He accomplishes his work with infinite consciousness through infinite suffering to vicariously carry the burden. These 7 days are very important. In the future, I believe this will be the period when many, let's say millions, come to Mehrabad. This week will be most important. So the Amar Tithi that we celebrate now in 2 days, which used to be 3 days, will eventually be 7 days, 8 days plus, depending upon how the organization of pilgrims can come there. In every Advent, the most important day is when the avatar drops his body. That is the milestone, because that is when the work that he has done is released. Baba has explained, this is an important point, reiterated from time to time, that whenever the avatar comes, he is the actor playing the main role in that drama that was written, produced, and directed by the previous avatar. And as that actor playing the main role, he writes, produces, and directs the drama from the moment he drops his body until the next avatar lives and drops his body. So that's why Amar Tithi is the most important date to us. Not Baba's birthday, not Silence Day, both important events, but Amar Tithi has a very particular significance for us. Okay, Jai Baba.
Baba, Peter. It looks like Hoshang and Havovi are ready to say something, if they would unmute.
That good?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, Hoshang, speak now, please.
Of God, Meher Baba ki jai.
Yes.
The earlier speakers have said everything that I wanted to say. So there is not much left for me to say about this thing. But I will give you a clear picture of what happened on that 31st night. We heard about Baba's dropping the body. Arna was phoned in the office. We were in the office with my brother Nariman and other brothers. And that Baba had dropped the body from Adike Irani. So we immediately went home, took up our family also, members, all the family, we all 4 brothers, Nariman, Arnavas, my other brother, Behram, Rustam, and others, and the family. And we all left for Ahmednagar, Mehrabad on 31st afternoon around 2 to 30. We reached Mehrabad around 2 to 30 in the morning, next day. That is on the 1st of, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Hello? Okay. So we reached Mehrabad on around 2 to 30 and went up the hill directly with a torch in hand. It was a blue moon night. Can you imagine? And as earlier speaker said that there was flood in the Makkah also for 7 days and the Muslims could not visit the place. Whereas Mehrabad, people started coming in to pay respect to our Lord Meher Baba. You see, we reached there around 2:30 and when we met Dearest there on the hill, Baba's body was already kept in the crypt. And by 2:30 or 3, we could enter the crypt, go down the steps. There were steps there, as earlier speakers mentioned, and we could touch Baba's feet, paid respect to him, looked at him, and his beautiful face was there. as if he was resting only, nothing else beyond that, because it was there for some days. We were told that it will be kept open for 2, 3, 4 days. It was not yet decided what was the exact date when his body would be covered. Now see, the Lord of the universe, it was a plain, simple coffin made by Padri Kaka. It was like a matchbox. Can you see this matchbox? Inverted matchbox, simple as anything, and his body was covered with this, only like this. Can you see this? No, I don't think so. So it was like an inverted matchbox, and his body was covered with that later on on 7th of February. Why it was decided 7th and everything has been said by the earlier speakers, because it was a fasting birthday on that day, and Baba said that I'll be completely free from everything now. So it was, but this constant remembrance, he would always say, remember me constantly, remember me constantly. By remembering constantly, we are forgetting our worries also, good and only good words, good thoughts and good deeds come to our mind. And that is what Baba's message was, simple message was this. You see, we stayed there for 7 days, and every day we got the opportunity to go down the steps and pay homage and respect to Baba. You know something, some speakers did mention or did not, I don't know, but continuously ice was kept out around Baba's body. And our doctor, Gindi? No, not our doctor, Gavin. I forget the name. Donkin. Dr. Donkin went in search of ice. And on his way to Pune, immediately after he left Amarnagar, he found a truck lying there. See, Baba, how merciful he is that he had made all the arrangements also, indirectly, without anybody knowing it. So Donkin inquired from the truck driver whether ice is being sold, about to be sold. He said, no, the order has been cancelled, so you can buy the ice. And that's why Dr. Donkin brought the ice trolley truck immediately, and it was useful to them for nearly 7 days. So much ice, whole truckload of ice was brought there, and it was kept around Baba's body. You see, we remember him constantly. By remembering him constantly, when we go down, I always thought that we had wonderful time with Meher Baba during those 7 or 8 years at Guru Prasad. Guru Prasad was the most wonderful time of our life, when we could go to Baba twice a day, morning and evening session, and played cards with him, joked with him, and he would also have tea with him also in that small, what they call Mandali Hall at Guru Prasad. Those who had visited Guru Prasad must have noticed it. So those were the days. So those were the time I remember. Now those days are gone now, and we will not be able to have that close contact with Baba as much as we had during the last 7, 8 years in Guru Prasad. The point is that the last time we met Meher Baba was just 40 days before he dropped the body. We were fortunate enough to have been invited to Verazad for 2 days on 22nd of December and 23rd of December. And my sister Anna, Nariman's wife, sister-in-law, had requested Baba to have my son and my daughter and my nephew and nieces, what they call Naosherwan ceremony performed. It was not a ceremony. performed by Baba.
Gift to Black.
It was a gift, last-minute gift by Baba, and we were there in Mandi, Berasa, on just 40 days before he dropped the body.
Had wedding.
And Tara Amrish's wedding was also there. So we had wonderful time there, but we could see that Baba was definitely frail and looked very, very weak. And when we landed at the station, my brother Nariman came and said, the Baba said that he is not well and he might have to cancel the program also. So we were really disappointed. But the merciful Lord never disappoints his lovers. So he sent a message again where we were staying in Parsi Dharamshala in Ahmednagar city. That Baba said that under any circumstances, I am going to hold the function. So we selected two Baba lovers and family members. All my family members were there, and we were present there and at the last opportunity of meeting Baba then. So I would digress a little that what happened is that Nariman had told Baba that he's selling his factory. So Baba said that I have created this man. He pointed like his fingers up, that hold on to him and he will buy your factory, don't worry about it. He never said that when and what time. What happened was that when we were negotiating with him on 31st in our office, August is about to sign the agreement, the news came that Baba had dropped the body. So we all suddenly left everything and came over to Mehrabad, bringing our children and everybody with us. And as I told you, we reached there around 2:30 in the morning of 1st February. And for nearly last 50 years or 55 years, we have been visiting his tomb at least 6, 7, 8 times a year and pay respect to him. And Baba had said that my tomb will be the greatest place of worship, and those who have not seen me, nor have met me, will come here one day and pay homage and respect to my Samadhi. Somebody asked Dearest one day, I'll share a story with you. Somebody asked Dearest, what is the miracle Baba has performed? So Dearest says, Baba has said many times, we have been told that I have not come to perform miracles here. Just love me and obey me and remember me constantly. And the greatest miracle, he said, is the wonderful and the beautiful are the ways of the silent one, who, while observing silence for 45 years without uttering a single word, could draw hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people who have never met him, who have never seen him, and who are now coming to his Samadhi to pay respect to him. Isn't it a miracle? Really, it is truly a miracle, and for past 40, 50, 55 years, really, we have been witnessing it, that more and more youngsters are coming there, more and more newcomers are coming there to pay their homage to Meher Baba. So this is what I wanted to say. The merciful one gave us 2, 3 short prayers, the shortest prayer any religion has given. So the Baba lovers have now in this time, modern time, that there is lack of time for people. They're all very busy. He has given us the Master's prayer, very short prayer, wherein the attributes of God are there, about 60, 70 attributes of God are given by Baba himself. Secondly, the Master's prayer, then the prayer of repentance, which we perform practically every day. We perform prayer of repentance. We are repenting for something which we do wrong. And that also is a very, very short prayer of hardly 5 minutes. See, the merciful Lord has been kind to us, that He is not taking up much time. Otherwise, our Hinduism or Islam or past Zoroastrianism, or Sikh or Jain or Christian. The prayers are so long, and nowadays the modern children are not ready for this long prayer. The Baba, looking to the future, has given us the shortest three prayers: the Master's prayer, the prayer of repentance, and we can easily participate. And this is His grace, it is His mercy that we are surviving. Only thing is that we should always remember Him. These are His very words: remember me constantly, remember me constantly, and don't forget to take my name and share the stories of my adventure with people. So that's why I just shared this story with you. And thank you very much, Roshani, for everything. Thank you.
Jai Baba, thank you for that. We're going to have, we're going to switch gears a little bit. Anyone who's on the panel can unmute yourselves. So if there's some side commentary that you would like to add, feel free. But in the meantime, we'll take questions. If the questioner could specifically ask a particular person, that would be helpful. Otherwise, then just amongst the panelists, if you would jump in as appropriate. It might be a little bit confusing at first, but we'll figure it out. Jai Baba.
Our first questioner is Sheva.
Yes, this is Konda Chava. My question is, Baba, after dropping his body in 1969, we can feel his presence or he's active for next 100 years. And that versus Baba, universally, we can feel his presence everywhere. So can someone actually describe, so what are the differences between these two?
Did you want to ask a specific person, or did you want someone to, any of the panelists?
Anyone is fine.
Wasn't sure the question.
Can you repeat the question, Sheva?
Okay. Baba, after dropping his body, is active for next 100 years. That's what actually I read. And then, we will also know that Baba is presence is felt everywhere, universally felt everywhere. So then, what is the difference between these two? Baba, physically, so he is not in there in the body, but he is active for next 100 years, right?
100 years is kind.
Hello, I'll take this answer. I'll take this question, but subject to correction. I look at it this way, that after 100 years, the 5 perfect masters who will be there will take over from there. So till such time for 100 years, the perfect masters will be, I call it, waiting in the wings. In the sense, they are not in authority. Meher Baba will be in authority for 100 years. After 100 years, the 5 perfect masters will take over. But for the lovers of God, Meher Baba will always be there. To give you a live example, I'm a Zoroastrian, Cyrus, Naosherwan, we are Zoroastrians. But Zoroastrians still follow and revere Zoroaster. Zoroaster died 7,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. But Zoroastrians still revere and pray to Zoroaster. Same goes for Ram, Krishna, everyone. So in that sense, Meher Baba will be with us for all the time to come, for millennia. This is my brief answer. Someone else can check me.
I'll add something to that. Yes, I think his question was, what is the difference between the eternal infinite presence of God as avataric infinite consciousness and the special assigned 100-year period? It has to do with Baba's manifestation, according to what he has explained to his mandali. What they didn't tell us a lot about was that first circle, as Baba explained, is bound to get realization within that 100-year period. For the avatar as a master, his main responsibility is to give his circle realization, God realization. And the first circle, as Baba said, must experience God realization within that 100-year period. So that 100-year period has to do with his manifestation. What do we say when we mean manifestation? Specifically, it means a full manifestation into the world of forms, the gross world. After Baba dropped his body, this brings us to another issue, by the way. After Baba dropped his body, there was this question. People who think deeply were wondering that Baba dropped his physical body, but did he drop the other bodies? You know, it's just one of our ways we continue remembering Baba by cogitating all these explanations that he gave and thinking about them. But what we can do, since we don't have any direct spiritual experience of such things, is look at somebody who does. So Muhammad Must was very happy after Baba dropped his body. He wasn't sorry about anything. And he made remarks like, why can't you see, people? Can't you see that now Baba is everywhere here? And he would point, he's there, he's come, he's here like Ustaji now, he would say. He said that the day before. He was going to come to Mehrabad to be like Ustaji, which God realized in the beyond state, disembodied state. But according to his experience in the mental world, he saw Baba everywhere. Baba was not gone. So there was a difference. How long that lasts, I don't know. If you recall the earlier years, Baba made the statement, and this is one of the things that threw people off, because Baba had made the statement that he would be alive he would be there till he was 90 years old. So they took that as meaning that Baba would not drop his physical body till he was 90 years old. So we don't know the rest of it. We never interviewed Muhammad per se on the subject. He wasn't, he made the comments he made. That was it. But mostly this has to do with Baba's manifestation. When these mandali of the first circle, many of them, when they get God realization, many of them will be perfect masters in these different subsequent perfect ages. And what the perfect masters in the perfect ages do is execute the divine plan that the avatar, this is how Baba has explained it, execute the divine plan that the avatar has made during his physical lifetime. So their work will be to execute the manifestation of the avatar in the world. That's why in every Advent, there is this special period after the avatar drops his body.
I think we can take another question.
Mm-hmm. Can I just say something about the previous question? When Baba would declare himself as the Ancient One, it was because he was always present. He'll be the Ancient One in the next billion years as Meher Baba or whatever other names he comes under, as well as the ones that he had previously. And from my understanding, even though he spoke about the 100-year period in which he would be active as the avatar of this age, he also was wanting everybody to know, like he told me personally, he said, I am with you always. What does that mean? He's not gone. The 100 years doesn't apply. What it means is different to different people, but The point is, you always have access to the avatar. You always have access. Whether he performs his work through the 5 perfect masters or through your neighbor next door, or what, he can do whatever he wants. He's not limited. He uses whatever means possible to advance you, to answer your prayers, however mundane they may even be. He's always there for you because ultimately he is you. He's your higher self. He's your own higher self. So you're being guided to realize consciously your higher self. That's his main work. And he wants you to approach him any way that you think that you can do it. It doesn't matter how you do it. You approach and you ask, and he will guide you. Now, in the case of Sai Baba, one of the 5 perfect masters, he was saying to someone who came to him that wanted God realization, he said how happy he was that now, finally, after all these ages of me answering your prayers, that you want God realization, you want the real thing. He said, but now that you want it, are you ready to do what I want? All along, I've been doing what you want. Now, are you ready to do what I want? So this is what happens. Ultimately, you come to a point where you've had it enough with everything else. Now you want to know what's really going on. Who am I? What am I? I don't even know my own self. What kind of a thing is this? Me being me, I don't know me. So this is like, finally it dawns on a person. They want to know the truth. And that's why they say the truth will set you free. How free you can get of all limitations. Well, when Baba spoke about the 100-year period, okay, so let's start with 100 years. And then we'll go to 1,000 years, and then maybe to 1,000,000 years, or until you have achieved the goal. And that's what I think. So I don't know if this answers your question the way exactly you were thinking to ask it, but that's my version of it.
Thanks, Irwin. Vijay was actually there, I think, at Interment Day. Is that right?
What?
Yeah. Oh. Yes, Angela. I was 18 and the news came on radio. And my neighbor told me that your Meher Baba is no more. And we had earlier that conception that he is going to break the silence and he will speak, and so there was a shock, and I came running. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but can you move your mic away from your, I don't know, it's touching something, it's making noise. Yeah, just lift it up. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry for that. So my neighbor told that the news came on the radio that Meher Baba is no more. And I came running to my room and crying that whether to Baba's picture, Baba, whether you are God or not, or whether you have broken your silence or not, but I love you, and I would like to come to Ahmednagar, Mehrabad. I had no money, and one of the Baba lover who worked at railways, he offered me the train pass as like his son. He could get the pass for his family. So with him, I came to Mehrabad and had Baba's darshan in the crypt on the 3rd day. I went down and touched his feet, It was a subdued atmosphere, very few people. And then when I came down, I never felt to go again for this repetition. And we came to a railway station, had lunch there or there, and then from there to Pune, and then back to Jabalpur. I met Muhammad Mas there at Lower Mehrabad, and I asked him, where is, he used to call Baba Dada. So I asked him, where is Dada? And he said, Dada is on the Tikri. He's on the hill. So, and in response to the question that regarding 100 years, I feel that Baba's presence is same as he was in the physical body. The same benefit will be derived by the people who have that such love and trust in Meher Baba. They will continue to get that benefit as Baba was in the physical body. And he's more accessible now. And he said, Baba said actually, external contacts are made to establish internal contacts. And that now, since he has established internal contacts with his lovers, he's always there. Thank you, Jai Baba. And I really enjoyed all speakers. And thank you so much. It's a very special day. Jai Baba.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Vijay. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing your time there. Dilshad, I'm not sure. Did you have a turn speaking? Yeah.
Yes, I would like to ask a question. If any of the five speakers can answer, I heard all the five. The specific question that I have is that Baba has all along given signs and kind of indications. So he on one hand he had prepared the location of his samadhi, he had made the structure, he had kind of decided where the body would be interred, but he never said which day he will drop it, nor did he say which day would he be totally covered. So this thing about 7th February, in hindsight or in retrospect, it is associated with what he had said when his Mandli was asking him, when are you going to relieve yourself from this trauma of being, so ill and so, badly suffering. So my understanding is that from 31st onwards, it was like, on a day-to-day basis, situation was changing. Jimmy uncle also, I remember, said there was a floating population. And the trustees were also not, as I understand, very sure of what to do when. But it happened finally that the interment happened on 7th. So this connection with his Parsi birthday, did it happen, I mean, by chance or as an afterthought? Or in other words, what was it finally that the trustees decided that yes, now the body cannot be kept anymore? Because there was another one person saying that, Dr. Roshan Barucha. So Roshan uncle went down and saw that the body was okay, or Dr. Goher, whatever. How was it? What was the final logic or criterion that made the trustees decide 7th February? Thank you so much.
Nash?
Yeah, I'd like to say a little bit on that. I cannot tell you exactly why they took a decision. There were several discussions that happened, but let me go back to 1950 when Meher Baba's birthday was always celebrated on February 7th. And I was a little boy at that time during the New Life. And in Dehradun, Baba's birthday was celebrated on the 7th with Sev and Rava that was made by Naja, and several of the Baba lovers from Dehradun had gathered. So in the early years, Baba's birthday was celebrated always on the 7th. So there may have been some indication from the women Mandali that that might be a good day for internment of Baba's body. But that's the only speculation I can make, because Baba's birthday was often celebrated on 7th of February.
Thank you.
Jimmy, anything to add?
See, there's a story which I've heard myself, which is in none of the books. And the story goes that there was this gentleman from Ahmednagar, Darab Satta, who had thereafter moved to Bombay for job. Everyone, all the men from Ahmednagar, since it was a one-horse town, there was no avenue to make a living, to earn a living for your family. So all men, including my ex-boss, Savak Damania, who was my boss, all the men would go to Bombay for work. So Darab Satta was one such person from Ahmednagar who had moved to Bombay. On the 31st, a group of us, 35 of us, went to Ahmednagar because we came to know about it. Darab didn't come to know about it because nobody informed him. So on the next day, which is the 1st of Feb, Darab is having his bath in the morning on the seventh floor. There's a knock at the door, and his cousin says, Darab, do you know your Meher Baba died yesterday and they are covering his body at 10 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock, whatever. And Darab started howling. How can Meher Baba just die? How can he die? Then there's another door another knock on the door and says that Meher Baba is to be interred at around 9, whatever. And it's already 8 in the morning, he's in his bath, and Baba is to be closed within an hour's time. So he starts howling again that, Baba, how could you do that? How could you ever do that? Nobody informed me. I will never see your face again. I will never ever be able to see again. And this is it. So Baba comes through the window. He sees this vision. Baba comes through the window on the 7th level. He says, Darab, you don't have to cry. You don't have to cry because my body is not interred yet. It's not going to be covered. You go to Ahmednagar, you go to Mehrabad and tell the Mandli to keep my body open for 7 days. Darab said, Baba, who am I? Who am I to tell the Mandli? Why didn't you tell Mera? Why didn't you tell Mani? Why didn't you tell Iraj? Who's going to listen to me? Baba said, you don't have to cry. Just do what I say, you do it. So by evening, he's on the hill and he meets Iraj. I think they were cousins. So Darab is telling his cousin Iraj as to what transpired in the morning. Now, if it was me or it was someone else, Iraj would have said, Darab, sit down, please sit down. Have a cup of tea or water. I know you are disturbed, etc. But he didn't do that. He said, Darab, you wait here. I'll go inside. I'll talk to the women Mandli and I'll come back.
Amazing story.
Sure enough, Iraj comes back with Dr. Goher and Baba's sister Mani and says, Darab, repeat what you said. So Darab repeats what he says. So they go inside, the women go inside, they talk to Mera that Darab is saying what he's saying. So then there is a conference. Mentally, the women agreed. Now, I won't go into details why, but mentally, the women agreed. So there is a conference between the women Mandli, and the 3 doctors. And initially, Dr. Ginde was very upset. He was very upset. He said, this is not going to happen. Who is this man? Who is this silly man who's talking nonsense? And finally, I'll make it very brief. Finally, as a compromise, it was decided that the doctor will go inside the crib. They will inspect Baba's body. They will open Baba's torso. They will inspect Baba's body. If it is holding good, as I call it, if it is holding, the body is holding, then they will postpone the interment. So twice a day, I've seen doctors going inside, the 3 doctors going inside, and they would close the door, and after a while they would come. Goher would go to the women monthly. She would talk to the women saying that Baba's body is good, we can postpone the interment. So from morning it went to evening, from evening it went to morning. This kept happening. On the 4th day, Dr. Ginde went back. On the 4th day, Dr. Ginde went back. So he was out of the picture. He was very disturbed. In fact, when he was inside on the 3rd day or 4th day, he's telling Goher and the other doctor, Don, don't you think we should close Baba's body now? He was very nervous. He was very nervous. So Goher said, why, Dr. Ginde? What is the issue? What is the problem? Baba's body is holding. As Peter said, she would press Baba's torso, physically press, because she was the one who was down on the ice. And she would press Baba's torso and look up at Ginde and say, Ginde, look at it, look at me, look at Baba's body, it's still holding. Why do you want to close it? So then Ginde left on the 4th day. So this is how they went from day to day, session to session. And finally, well, it was decided on the 6th day that tomorrow is the day. Tomorrow is Baba's birthday. He had given some signs, as previous panel members said. So this is the story behind why Baba's body was closed on the 7th day. Sadly, unfortunately, there's not a single book on Baba which talks about this except my book. But I think I've answered this question.
Thank you so very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
One comment I will add is that it happened on the morning of the 31st at Merazad, when so many of the Mandali were in Baba's room with him in his bedroom. He was suffering so much. Dr. Duncan and Dr. Goher were just hopelessly dejected that they couldn't help him. And that's when Baba made the comment, don't worry about a thing. In 7 days, all the suffering will be over. So that is the hint. It actually happened on the morning of the 31st. That is the hint, the main hint they took. And then the second factor being Baba's birthday. Yes.
We touched upon that hint. Thank you so very much. I have one question for you. You mentioned about Baba's body being taken in that stretcher, that metal stretcher to the
wooden
tomb.
stretcher. Yes.
And then I'm fail to understand. I keep on hearing that box was lowered down, but what was Baba kept on? I mean, what was the kind of thing he?
So as Hoshang was trying to explain, it was the box portion was the cover, and the lid, in this case, the lid was what was set on the bottom of the crypt first.
So the box was first put and then Baba was put on the box?
No, the lid of the box was set down. So the box, imagine this, the box was used in an upside down way. So the lid was placed at the bottom, and Baba's body lifted, that was still on the carpet from Merazad. Baba's body was lifted off of the stretcher and set down onto the lid. And from there, all the treatments that they gave to Baba's body over that 7-day period were done. On interment day, we saw that photograph where the lid of the box was lowered down over Baba's body. I mean, the box was lowered down over Baba's body to fit into the lid. The lid had what's called a rabbet or a recess. And
so on the concrete, the lid was kept, and in the carpet with the body was kept on the lid.
Not concrete. There was no concrete. There was a base, but it was only 5 feet deep from the original days. and from the rebuild in 1938. So Padre had his crew excavate that hard muram down an extra foot to get the depth, the proper depth that they wanted. So then feature this. Here's a container. This is the lid. The lid was put down first for 7 days like this. And then on interment day, the box was placed over Baba's body like that. Okay.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Highly appreciate it.
Thank you, Peter. That was a good visual. Anyone else? I'm not
I
seeing
have a question. I have a
Ah.
question. Jai Baba. May I ask the question? Because I don't know how to raise my hand.
Oh, go ahead. Yes. And then I'll call Matt.
So,
Yes, please.
Jai Baba, and to thank all the speakers. Um, Peter had mentioned, and I'd also seen it in the Bombay Center play, that Baba had said that he would drop his body when he's 90. Now, whenever Baba says something, he said that it doesn't come, it always comes true. So obviously, it's we who don't understand it. So my question is that, is there anything significant that might have happened, that has happened or would have happened when Baba turned 90? You know, in terms of how would you interpret? Is there some way of interpreting what Baba said, that he would drop his body when he would turn 90?
You know, things went on as usual. What happened after Baba dropped his body is that many of the Mandali and close disciples also began to pass away. 1984 didn't seem like anything specifically important. It just, things went on. But I would say probably a significant date was when Mara passed away in 1989. And that was 20 years after Baba dropped his body. Within the time Baba dropped his body, as he said, when I drop my body, then I will take soon, I think I remember hearing this, he said, soon I will take 6 of my people with me soon after. Sadashiva, first one was Kakabarya, Sadashiva Patil, Dr. Duncan in August, others. So as the years went by, and every time somebody would die, Padre had this term, well, another wicket has fallen. And then they would say, well, it should be in a group of 3. Who's next? And they always joked about dying because their whole purpose to them was being there with Baba in the physical body, but they continued to do the work faithfully, but they didn't take any of this stuff, dying, very seriously. I remember when Kaikabad died in 1976, we were having a meeting before Amartithi, and somebody rushed down the hill. Kaikabad has dropped his body in Mandalay Hall. Padre's comment was, he didn't drop the body, he died. He kicked the bloody can, something like that. It's, you know. So he told me, go over, they didn't have a telephone at Mehrabad, so he told me, go over to Alu's and call Erich. So I rode my bicycle quickly over to Alu's TB sanatorium and called Erich. Erich, Kaikabad has died. Okay, so what do you want? Well, I guess they want a coffin. Okay, we'll send it out. They always had a ready coffin behind Adi's office for the next one. And that was ready. So they sent that one. It was a slightly small, but they squeezed his body in there and that was it.
This business of dropping the body, that's only done by someone who has consciousness and can actually do it with volition.
Right.
But they know how to do that. Yes. And they do it for the purposes of moving on, or whatever their purpose is or mission. But everybody else just drops dead. You see, they die because there's no way of controlling this by the ordinary person. By the way, it isn't the first time that Baba said things that were not understood, like his being 90 years old. He also talked about dates and times when he would break his silence. And for a long time, you know, people felt very disillusioned with Baba. They didn't know what to make of it, because how can he say something and then it doesn't seem to pass that way? But the truth of the matter is, there was always a lot deeper significance when Baba spoke about something. Like, for instance, when he said that he would break a silence or whatever at a certain time, then one day he was saying, and he's made many comments similar to this, that when the word of my love breaks out of its silence to speak in your hearts, telling you who I really am, then you will know that's the word you have always been longing to hear. So if he gave a date or something, there was much more depth and significance. And then another time he said, if you thought that I was going to tell you the time and place and date of breaking my silence, then it means you didn't really understand my silence. He even went so far as to say that. But you can, you know, there's so many things that he mentioned about the silence and what would happen when he broke his silence and how everybody would know. So all of these things are subject to your understanding, your interpretation, how deep you want to look at it. That's the way it is. You can't just pin him down. You know, he's not someone you pin down. He does things as he sees fit. And he's told us that all along, that he is totally free from everything he says. Well, it's for us to try and meditate on it. You see, it's for our benefit, because these questions come up and it sounds mysterious. And what happened? Why didn't he do this? What's happening really is that you're thinking about him all the time. He's giving you a reason for the mind to think about him, even if it's about why he didn't break his silence, or he did break his silence, or the interpretations that, well, Baba is manifesting. He said that he would manifest. Well, what does manifestation mean? It means showing you something. And what did he say? That he would show you who he really is. So the whole thing is that the world is coming to know, because he said his manifestation would be for the world. They're coming to know who he really is, that this is God coming into the world again to uplift us. So that's the manifestation in a very simple, gross manner for the gross world. How it manifests on the inner planes, that comes later, if it hasn't already happened to you, which it hasn't happened to most of us. I'm not going to speak for everyone.
I would like to add to Irwin's thing about silence. May I? May I?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We were all sitting in Baba's presence in 1965 in the Mandli Hall at Guru Prasad. And suddenly, some of you may have heard the name Naosherwan Mama, who was a relative of Erech, was sitting in the audience, and he raised his hand and said, and Baba said, yes, what is it? You have a question? He said, yes, Baba. So he was asked to stand up, and he said, Baba, you have said that you will never break your silence. And everyone was stunned to hear him say this. And most astonished was Baba himself. And Baba said, when did I say that? and then Baba became very serious. And he said, I will break my silence in the hearts of those who love me. I heard these words directly from Baba. And that is why I say that all the people who attended this Zoom event today are the ones who can hear Meher Baba's silence in their hearts, because he's given them the conviction of conscious divinity. That's
Beautiful,
all.
Naosherwan. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, one second. Here, I'm sorry. Here, my answer is twofold. One is the masters talk in cryptic language, which you and I do not understand. At times, they talk in cryptic language, which is beyond us. And point number two, your clock or your wall clock or your watch, your sense of timing is not the same as theirs. They may be talking from a different perspective, from a different angle, which you and I will never understand. So this is my answer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I come in on this just a bit?
Okay, I would want to get Matt as we had been waiting. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to address this thing that Pia said. Many times when we read Lord Meher, especially in the beginning days when Baba was much younger, he would say, tell the Manli, we are going to this place. Say, for example, it is Mysore or some place. And then it would land up that he would cancel the plan and they would end up going to Calcutta. I mean, when I was reading that for the quiz that we had for the Bombay Center, it was most amazing to me that God is saying something and doing something completely, it's like East and West. So on so many levels, Baba has done things which he particularly finds it relevant. And then, like, for example, even the school that he started the school for the boys and then he's wounded it up. So it was like, it's difficult for us to fathom with our gross mental capacities what the avatar has for us. Thank you.
Isn't that the truth?
So very
Matt, you've been so patient, Matt. Let's give you a turn.
Jai Baba, everyone. I think Jai Baba panel. Thanks,
Hi,
Betty.
Matt.
Hi. I have a question for all of you. I'd like to know your thoughts on something Lynn Ott had said. When Baba dropped his body, he took his divinity with him, and what he left was his humanity. I was wondering what you all think of that.
May I comment on it?
Please.
Once again, when I was sitting in Baba's presence in 1965, and I was narrating in detail my experiences of having spent time at a religions conference. And I turned to Baba and I said, and of course, I had been instructed not to ask any questions of Baba. Irich had written to me saying, no questions. But I got a slight opening. So I said, Baba, I could, by your grace, I was able to answer all the questions except one. And Baba said, what question? And I said, Baba, a number of people asked me, how can Meher Baba say that he's God in human form? And Baba kind of gave the feeling that what a simple question. And he then became very serious. And he said, you, Naosherwan, are God in human form. Francis is God in human form. Erich is God in human form. I am God in human form, but I am conscious of my divinity. It is my job to make each one of you conscious of your divinity as God in human form. And how do I do that? I give you the gift of conviction. And as I said earlier, it is this gift of conviction that has brought all of you in his presence this afternoon. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Naosherwan. Matt, does that answer your question? I'm sorry, I muted you, Matt.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I was hoping Mr. Luck would have something on that.
Mr. Luck?
I'm in complete agreement. We're all God in human form, but there is one problem. Consciousness, we're unconscious of it. If you're not conscious of your unlimited state of being and your bliss of being, then even though that's what you are, because you can't become something you're not, even though that's what you are, the whole point is to be conscious of it. And Baba, being conscious of it, can say that and know what to do for any individual to cause them to be conscious too. For now, he's satisfied for us to just spread his message to others, just that he's even alive, that God has appeared amongst us, and it's done through your own conviction of what you're saying. Now, I just think that it's fine, I mean, everything that's being said is just right, because Baba has said it. What are we doing? We're just, communicating what Baba told us. And so whatever he said, that's what we say. And because we don't have the experience ourselves to say it from our own authority. Anyhow, God in human form, that's the point. To experience yourself as God, at least, whether you experience it in human form or in any other form. But to experience that is what he's telling us that is what we need to do. And he's come to do it, to help us do it. He not only helps us do it, he makes it possible by eliminating all the obstacles that prevent us from that experience so that we can experience it. That's it. I don't say any more than that.
May I respond to Matt?
Yes, sorry, yes. Please,
No
Dilshan, do you have another question? Or yeah.
No, I wanted to respond to what Matt asked, if that's okay with. I'm just giving my 2 bits. See, when this statement is Baba takes the divinity and leaves behind humanity, one is, I would like to know where this is written, because everything about Baba needs to be seen in the context or in the aforementioned and below mentioned. That helps us to understand. If we just take a sentence, probably it is difficult to contextualize and put it in a framework. That being said, for me, God speaks is the Bible in truest sense of the term. So God speaks very clearly, says that God is infinite, indivisible, super consciousness. So when Baba came to earth, came as an advent, he came in as God in human form. So he came with his teaching for this particular advent, and his sentence is 2 lines that are engraved on this tomb is also, I have come to awaken, not to teach. So perhaps this was his role in this advent. He came to shake up humanity, make us aware of the human values. And when he leaves, the gross form is dropped, but the divinity, the super consciousness, which is the oversoul, stays. So he is there. I mean, God never kind of goes away. He's always there. The divine consciousness is gone, and this gross body leaves behind humanity. That's how I see it.
Thank you, Dilshad. Oh, we have Vijay has his hand up. Let's see. Can we unmute you, Vijay?
Yeah. No, I just want to say when Baba dropped his body in 31st January 69, and after that there was an influx of people from all over the world, and they had their various experiences, personal experiences, like somebody having coffee, somebody getting kick from him, and like some kind of a miracle. And when Mandali got to hear those stories, they used to say, "Ki we have seen the human side of Baba. Now we start seeing his divinity through you people." So the human side and divinity, and I'm sure everybody everywhere in some form, they have certain experiences, inner experiences about his divinity. So now he is all over, he is universal. And so that's what I want to say. And regarding promises, once my father asked Baba, he took a promise from Baba to visit his house at Jabalpur, and Baba agreed in 1956. And we started preparation. My father started preparation and all. And then Baba later on he cancelled it. The telegram comes, and then he says he will come after 700 years. So my father got very upset. And then when next time he comes in the Sahwas, 58, and then Baba told him that he's not bound by any promise. He's above all promise. So that's what Baba said. So he's God. He's not bound by any promise, even though he might have said so many things. So, yeah. Jai Guru.
A lot of the things that he says, we just don't understand it. He's talking at a different level too. Sometimes he talks in ways that we can understand it more easily, and other times it's not so easy to understand it because he's functioning in another way than what we are familiar with. And so we just have to go along with trying to figure it out if possible. And if not, we might ask him a question if he's available to ask. And if not, then you can still ask, because oftentimes answers come into your mind later. You know, you have a question about something, you don't know the answer, but then later it comes in because you do project it to him mentally, and then he responds to you that way. So there's all kinds of things and all kinds of ways of finding out what you need to know.
Thank you, Irwin. Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you.
And Elizabeth has a question now.
Yeah, this is probably a little far out, but I saw somebody commented in the chat about the 8 days, and I was just wondering if that might tie in somehow to the spiritual hierarchy. And we saw a chart recently in one of the books. I don't know whether it was Nothing and Everything or Infinite Intelligence, but it shows the positioning of Mandali, not Mandali, sorry, the circle, the various circles. And they would have men and women, 8s and 4s and 4s and 8s. And I think there were some combinations of 6s, but it's a bit esoteric, but I was just wondering if there's any significance to that.
I don't think so.
Okay, thanks.
Significance in which sense? I mean, that is the way Baba has shown that each Advent would come with 10 circles with different combinations of men and women. So in 6 or 4, 2 or 8, 5 and 5, and so on and so forth for 10 circles. And in the innermost circle, there would be 2 appendages. So for Baba, it is Mani and Mehranti. And so it becomes 122. That's the way he's the God. He says it. We believe it.
No, I was thinking in terms of the 8 days, that's all. And if there was any, I'm sorry, it just came to my mind. I thought I'd ask. So,
in the chat, Michelle mentioned that after the 31st, day 1, there were 7 more days, and that number 8 was significant in the Jewish
Hanukkah.
tradition. Yeah,
For Hanukkah.
yeah. But
I think it's getting late for our speakers who've been all attention for the whole time. The rest of us can come and go, you know. But yes, go ahead, Peter.
No, I said I
it
was.
was
Oh
Irwin.
no, it
It
was
was Irwin. Yeah.
Irwin. You were saying something.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to understand the question. So I have
Oh,
nothing
the
to say
significance
unless I
of
can understand the question.
Is there any significance to the 8 days?
The number 8 in terms of, I mean, I'm sure there was significance as to how the hierarchy was arranged. And the number 8 keeps coming up. And then I had never really thought about the number of days between the 31st and the 7th being 8. Anyway, it just stuck in my head. And I thought there might be somebody who knows something or heard. Anyway, sorry, it's probably irrelevant, but I thought I would ask.
I guess we're.
So unless anyone else has questions, I think we're going to wrap it up.
Yes. It is the number 7 that Baba has said about. There are 7
Yes, of
planes
course.
of
Jai Baba.
involution, 7 colors.
I would like our speakers to go if they want to, so we can chat freely after that. But is there anyone else who has a question for the panel of speakers? I think we're good. No hands are up.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much. And as I say, we can free chat for another 45 minutes or so. But thank you so much, Jai Meher Baba. If we want to unmute, Debbie's trying to say something. You can unmute.
Baba.
So thank you, everybody. I loved it. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you.
Meher Baba
Baba
ki
ki
jai.
jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Thank you all. Thank you for your time. It was lovely.
If
Wonderful.
anyone would like to stay, of course, you're welcome to stay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Jai Baba, what a meeting.
Jai Baba.
Beautiful,
Thank you.
Avovi, you are a night owl.
Quite a night owl.
And Vijay, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, Vijay, we know he's an idol.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. It was wonderful. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Jai Baba.
All right.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you all. Oh, we still have 32 people here.
Yeah,
Wow.
still hanging. All right, I'll
Thank
stop
you,
the recording.
everybody. Thank you, Angela. Thank